Hello, and thank you for tuning in to the Flatirons Syndicate Motorsports Podcast. This show is brought to you by Flatirons Tuning, your source for any aftermarket or OEM Subaru parts. Be sure to check out our store at FlatironStuning.com and stay tuned with Flatirons Tuning.
The GC is dead. Long live the GD.
Well, GD is dead. Long live the
GC.
GC.
Whoa. GC is dead. Long live the GD.
Okay.
Yeah, because we can't put STI stuff in GCs anymore. It's impossible.
What?
Oh. I know where you're going with this. First, welcome back, everybody, to the Flatirons Syndicate Podcast. Here in the shop with Jeremy and Tasso, OTC Racing, Money Shift Rally. All right, Jeremy, explain. What do you mean we can't put STI stuff in GCs anymore?
So, we're old in
Yeah.
the Subaru world. So, we know, like...
Well, hold on. I'm a spring chicken.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, but, like, RSTI...
Yeah.
Those are like the four magic letters.
Yeah.
That was when, so I know some of I know people back east that had like GCs and stuff that were, before 6-speeds even were a thing, people were like trying to put turbos on GCs,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, heck, you talked with Dominic forever about like
Yeah.
how we do it. And so when GD STIs became a thing,
Yeah.
right, then it was like, oh my God, these things are so similar to the GCs. We could just sort of plop the engine out of the GD and the transmission and put in the GC and like take the wiring out of the GD. It kind of sort of lines up to the GC, and we can just cut and splice a few things here and there. And wow, we've got a 2-door STI coupe in the United States when we never officially got those, right?
Yeah.
And that was like the thing for like 20 years.
Yeah.
Think of it. The 04 STI is 20 years old.
Yeah.
So that means the RSTI was a thing. It's for 20 years.
Well, and to be fair, people were buying JDM engines and wiring harnesses and putting it in, kind of like building their own RSTIs that way too. But yeah.
Right, but and
right. So again, what we're talking about here is iWire.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just explain what news came out.
Brian announced this week that iWire, probably like the oldest name in Subaru wiring services, isn't gonna be doing harness merges anymore. They're not gonna be doing the thing where you send in your GC wiring harness, your 98 Impreza wiring harness, your 2005 STI wiring harness, and they're not gonna and merging them together so that you can put it back in your GC and you can get your engine, your turbo engine running with your air conditioning working and, with the emissions stuff like the purge valves and stuff working, all that stuff. That's not, iWire was really unique because they offered like almost a turnkey solution for doing a turbo swap into a GC and a bunch of other swaps over the years, but they've decided that it's not really worth it to keep doing it anymore.
There's more to it than that. Full disclosure, I actually had a long conversation with Brian about this a little bit ago, and probably we'll talk to Brian about it directly at some point in the future. But so I've known that this was coming for a little while, and I think they've kind of done their best to kind of make it like drop the hints that this was coming for at least a month or two.
And to be fair, they used to do a lot more. iWire used to do a lot more services in terms of custom swaps and stuff like that. And a couple years ago, they backed away from that already.
Part of the problem is it's been getting more and more challenging.
Sure.
Like the what can be done and what shouldn't be done. The what you can't do has been getting bigger and bigger.
What we mean by can't do is can't do while complying with California emissions law.
And other states that have that are starting to hold the California emissions. There's just been like the 6-cylinder swaps were one of the first things to go. I think we actually talked about that in one of the podcasts that Brian's been on previously. But just like the landscape has been changing to the point where they had to kind of evaluate what they're doing. Does it still make sense? And their decision is to kind of pivot and go in a different direction because it's just. It was not the way that things were going was not sustainable.
Sure.
So I don't really want to speak for him any more than saying that. But
I just thought it was big because I know a lot of people who have those swaps who've either gotten stuff merged by iWire or tried to do it themselves, and it was like a giant disaster. And it was like, oh man, I really should have called up iWire and had them do it because they're really good at it.
Yep. So, and I guess the first thing to say is, like, it's not that this means that the swaps are impossible, because all of the other options of, like, the DIY harness merges is still an option. I think there's a couple other shops that have like started to do harness merges, but
frankly, to some extent, the swaps were less valuable than they used to be, because if you were going to do one of those merges, you were probably going to run it on an access port, right?
Yeah.
So, and now that access port tuning is a bit more limited, especially depending on what state you're in. If you were in California, you couldn't do that kind of swap, then put bolt-ons on and go get a Pro Tune.
Well, and you can imagine some of the shenanigans that you could run into if you have, say, a 98 GC.
Right.
But then when emissions place plugs in, it thinks it's, say, a 2005 WRX or a 2006 78 WRX.
Technically speaking, that's supposed to be allowed.
Yeah, the rule, at least the last time I looked into California emissions and engine swaps, and this is in the four-wheel drive world, specifically like people swapping Vortex into like Land Cruisers and stuff like that. You could do it legally, but it had to be to a more modern, more efficient motor, and you had to use all of the emissions equipment from the newer, more efficient thing.
It can certainly be done. It's just that once you get that year discrepancy, it gets weird and it triggers things.
Well, California, you get it barred. They have a system for certifying a swap as legal.
Yep.
We don't have that here.
Not entirely.
No.
Yeah. Well, and so oddly enough, there's a couple shops that we've been working with for a number of years that do Subaru engine swaps into Volkswagen Vanagons.
Sure.
And locally, those guys are the ones that I've heard the most of these issues coming up, because all sorts of weird shenanigans happen, are starting to happen with the Vanagons that have Subaru engines in them too, for basically the same kind of reasons. But in those cases, you can't. There is no swap because it's a Subaru versus a Volkswagen, so there's not a way to kind of completely switch over to one or the other system. It's more complicated.
Yeah, well, unless you're putting the Subaru, technically speaking, unless you're putting the Subaru gas tank in the Vanagon, it's not California legal, right?
Right.
So,
yep. Yeah, it's challenging. So it's like big picture wise, this move is not completely shocking from iWire, but it's a bummer. And like, I don't know.
I think to bring it back around to a motorsport perspective, a turbo GC is a badass car.
Sure. Oh yeah.
So not just emissions, yada yada. What are we gonna do now? Because who cares about emissions when you're racing? It makes it more complicated to make badass, light, agile cars, right?
Well, but if you're building a race car though, and you would just move to a standalone, then the harness merge doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Standalones are the answer.
You're right. Yeah.
For race cars,
for all cars.
Because I mean, the main, the principal benefit of a merge and an iWire merge specifically is that you knew all the factory features are going to work.
Yeah.
Your windows are still going to go up and down. Your air conditioning is still going to work. And you can plug an access port into it, and you can do all the normal. You could treat your GC like it actually was an 05 STI, kind of sort of from the factory, right?
Exactly.
So if you're doing a race car, then this is just another broad line being drawn between race car and street car. Go on to your standalone manufacturer website of choice or dealer and buy the standalone and check the box that says this is for off-road use only. It's a race car.
Yeah. I mean, that's I guess the plus is, if you are building a race car, like standalone is now just as much of an option as it ever has been before. And standalones are better now than they ever have been before.
It's even a better option now. I mean, I was talking to you earlier. Both Haltech and Mtron and Link in the last year and have released product updates that are significant upgrades. They're more capable and they're cheaper. Haltech has phased out their 1500 and they phased out their Elite product line, and they phased in the S2 and S3, which are effectively simpler versions of the R3 and R5 ECUs. So they don't have the PDM capability built in. So they tune the same. They have all the same features and the same inputs and outputs and everything. The only difference is they just don't have the PDM in them, which means that if you're taking an existing car and you want to wire in or use an engine harness for the standalone, it's significantly cheaper to do
to run the standalone through the factory wiring, through the factory fuse box.
Yeah, exactly. Which, for effectively is very feasible to do, especially the older Subarus.
Sure.
Right?
And simpler the electronic system, easier.
Mm-hmm. M-Tron also released a new product line. Of course, I can't remember the name of it, but it's their 8-cylinder ECU line. It's similar to the KV8, except they've removed some of the more expandability features from it, and they've removed the onboard lambda, which allowed them to cut down the number of connectors on it and substantially cut down the cost. So, you can run it now. Now it makes more sense, especially if you're already going to use a separate wideband controller or something like that. It's a much easier way to get into a really sophisticated motorsport standalone at a much friendlier entry level price. Yeah. This really, and then Link came out with their G5 series this year, which is kind of the opposite direction. It's actually more expensive than the existing Link ECUs, but it's way more capable, like just in terms of the feature set that are onboarded. Everybody's now, they're making them capable of driving, dual drive-by-wire. They have onboard lambda. They have capability to control electronic wastegates. They have more advanced tuning strategies, which make them more in line with where, like, the higher end of motorsport engine management, like Motex and Bosch engine management has been for 10 years now. Yeah, it's really cool. If you're building a race car with a standalone, your options are so wide.
Yeah, the threshold for moving to a standalone has come down so much, and a large part of that is the cost. Because I'm thinking, when I started racing, it was incredible to even think about going to a standalone. Unless you were one of these trust fund racers, you weren't even considering a standalone, because it was you were at least $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 to get a standalone set up and stuff like that. And now it's comparable to wheels and tires.
Yeah. So, well, and the standalones have gotten better and better and better. Mm-hmm. I remember early days, there were guys.
All right, dig out your serial cable.
Well, and you never took your laptop out of the car because you never
Danger to
know.
Manifold and a Motex system exhaust and shit like that. So.
But you never knew if everything was going to work well that day. Just the functionality they were way more complicated. They were way more opaque to people that were trying to use them.
It was, even in the car world, it was kind of like this, apex thing, right? I mean, in the first Fast and the Furious movie, they popped the hood and they're impressed by his standalone fuel management system,
right?
Or whatever engine management, whatever the actual quote was, right?
Yeah.
And it was whoa, this must be some sort of rad dude if he has one of those. And now everyone should just have one. It's just you get wheels, tires, brakes, and a standalone as a start.
Yeah.
Next question
for the race car. Sure.
No, for all cars.
For all cars, okay.
I'm not in favor of breaking the law.
That's a choice. Yeah.
I'm not promoting breaking the law.
Okay.
5 felonies a day.
It's not a bribe. Not a bribe. Okay. That's the other guy's quote. Not a bribe.
All right. Yeah. Well, so Jeremy, that's clearly what's been on your mind. Tasso, has there been anything top of your mind in the last couple of weeks since we last spoke?
No.
No. Okay.
No. Yeah. Sure. What's going on with that red car out there?
Okay. So this is our 2024 project car.
Mm-hmm.
So the latest update, and if you've seen the video, we've got now the TR brakes on it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, very, very easy to
put
the TR brakes on it. Yeah. Well, that's okay.
I don't watch our stuff.
That's okay. That's fine. There's still time. There's plenty of time. They're up there forever.
Yeah, for sure.
At your leisure, you can check it out. So we're gonna get those. Well, they're on the car. We're gonna bed them in, and then we need to get the car aligned because we had to switch out the knuckles up front. So we had to basically take the whole front suspension apart, put it back together, and then the coilovers that we were going to put on the car showed up way earlier than I expected, and so there's no reason to get the car aligned until we put the coilovers on. So that's going to be the next thing that we do here pretty quickly.
Cusco 03G?
Yes.
Which is a different car version of the same suspension I run on my race car, right?
Yes.
So,
yep. So the concept, I haven't really talked about it. I guess I'll talk to our listeners here. I'll tell you what our concept initially with this car is to do kind of like the 911 Dakar build. So something where it's performance, but more off-road capable than just the factory car. And after driving the car a bit more, I'm really curious to see what this car behaves like with a softer suspension on it, especially like over rough roads and that sort of thing.
Is it softer than stock?
It almost certainly will be. Really? Because this is... the more that I drive this car, the more surprised I am at how stiff it is.
Tasso, have you driven a VB?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I have.
They're stiff and grippy.
I don't think they were an OEM car though.
Have you driven a stock like a GR? If you go from a GR
I've driven one GR and it was not stock.
Okay. If you go from take mine around the parking lot. If you drive a GR or a VA, the WRX versus the STI, the WRX is like.
What's the factory spring rate on a VB?
Smushy smush.
I don't know what this one is. I'd have to look it up. But it's really stiffer than I would have expected.
I'm doing it live.
The VA and the GR stock WRXs. I mean, the STIs were stiffer, but the WRXs in those models they have a lot of body roll. Their sway bars are tiny. Yeah. The VB felt a lot firmer to me on track than a VA.
I think. Well, man, I want to say that they changed the springs from 22 to 24. I don't remember
what springs did you get on the Cuscos? I'm on a 300-pound front spring on my race car.
Yes, these are softer. This spring rate will be 200 pound per inch front and 225 rear.
Yeah. First, just Googling it.
Yes.
219 pounds was the front spring. The rear is a progressive, so it's pretty rowdy.
Yeah. Okay.
But OEM car. But the front still will be whatever. So 219 you said you went to a 200?
Yeah.
That's soft.
It is.
For like a 8,000 pound car?
Yep.
That's too much.
It's not an 8,000 pound car.
Yeah, I know it's not an 8,000 pound car, but that's soft.
It is soft.
Is it going to ride the bump stops?
I don't know.
Okay.
We'll find out.
Cool.
So that's the plan with it. And like all full disclosure, they don't make a suspension for this. So the first thing they have to do is take a front and a rear strut off and just verify as best we can that it actually does fit. There's a lot of things that are different with the suspension, with the VB, especially in the rear, actually.
Yeah.
So it should fit, but we've got to kind of go in there carefully and verify that it actually does.
So like a pretty common grassroots gravel suspension front spring rates on like the rally side of stuff is like 225 to, like we were saying, there are 300 in the front of my car.
There's a big range.
There is.
And it
has to do a lot also with how you set your ride height and how much travel you're getting anyway.
And how rough the terrain you're going over. Like, are you actually, like, is it just rough dirt roads, or are you trying to, like, go over, like, any kind of jumps. Like absorb big dips? Like, there's a lot of weird stuff. Because what was surprising to me with the Rigers that we put on the rally car is that those spring rates are significantly softer than even this. I want to say, so for the Rigers on our GD rally car, the front springs, oh man, I want to say it's 175 front, 140 rear.
Yeah, the long tube stuff.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
But it's really, really soft. And I think part of what's happened is that, like, going back to like our RSNSPs, we were running like the spring rates that we have on your suspension, which is like 300 pounds per inch fronts, 300 pounds per inch fronts, and like 250, 275 rears.
On our car, there was a big struggle to figure out if we were happier with the softer or 300. I think we kept bouncing between like 250 and 300. Couldn't really. To be fair, in certain cars like GRs, there's compromises in the suspension design that make it hard to find. Good. I think we ended up with 275 front and 225 rear. So
and you've got to kind of like play around with it and try.
Also, a rally car is a lot lighter in the rear, most likely, than a stock car with full interior and everything.
True.
Hugely lighter. It's so easy to make the back end of Subaru super light.
Well, and the terrain that like this car is going to be going over is going to be miles not as bad.
That brings up something that I was thinking of. So you just put 6-pot Brembos on it, so you're not running 15-inch rally wheels.
No. Nope. No, that was like because we want like the idea is to put in the soft suspension.
Big spacers.
Really big spacers. Yeah, pizza cutters.
Box flares.
Maybe. But it's still. I mean, we're still going to take it to the track and play with it. But we want it to make this thing as usable in a broad set of use cases as possible, and just kind of start there. And if we kind of hone in on,
I've taken a stage rally car around the racetrack, and I have to say, they don't handle that well.
No, not typically.
No, not when you don't have sway bars.
Yeah. Lots and lots of body roll.
Yeah, lots of body roll. So
can be done, but I mean, this is one of the things you have to kind of, if you pick a specific use case for a car, and if it's a race car, I mean, you kind of by definition are picking the use case for the car, and then you build around that. For a street car, it's harder because, especially if it's something that is doing 60, 70, 80, maybe even 90% of its use on the street, and then just a fraction of its use is on, say, a track. If you prioritize the track, you can very quickly start to ruin how much you like driving it on the street.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to keep as broad as possible initially, and like if we decide that we're going to really hone in on something, then we will. But like for right now, we're just kind of keeping it broad. And I just want to see what this thing is like on those 03Gs.
One of our friends, Shane, would bring his bone stock, like brand new 2021 STI to rallycross events all the time.
Yeah.
And just go at it.
Sure. And I mean, an STI, it's going to be reasonably capable. I mean, even if you don't change out the brakes, you can run snow tires. There's tire options. It's not like a rally tire, but it's better than an
on those. There was an out wheel options because I think did he have 18s on it or the 19s still? I can't remember.
21 is probably a 19.
He might. I can't remember if he had put aftermarket 18s on it though. But that, I mean, the tires, the snow tires in a rubber band.
Yeah, not good.
No, not good.
Not good at all.
And there's 18s on that now.
Yes.
On the shop.
There have been 17-inch rally retreads.
Yeah.
Like a rally light kind of, not rally light class, but
one of the motivating factors, if we're going to try and make the stock 17s work, is to get a better, like, all-terrain tire option versus the 18.
Yeah.
There's more options even in 17s.
There's, so tons. Like, we have Falcons on our Forester, and they're great.
Yeah. Toyo, is it all-country, off-country?
Yeah, they're a little bigger, though. I mean, there's more sidewall profile on, like, a Forester than there is on a WRX. Or room for overall diameter, right?
Well, what's wild is
you think so?
there's big...
I bet you the wheelhouse is the same.
There's a lot of room in the wheel arches of this WRX. So I think a slightly plus-sized tire is going to be an option.
It is a Forester. It's just...
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It's an Ascent with the hatchback taken off of it.
That's right.
I mean, the global rallycross cars have run 18s on a cut slick for a long time. So those like are pretty rowdy on dirt.
For some of those years where Pikes Peak was partially dirt, partially paved. I mean,
I have a tire groover.
We do too, but the go-to tire was a rain tire.
Yeah.
Because it's blocky tread, but it's like a soft R compound rubber. Yeah. But you got the blocks, and then you can go at it with the groover if you want to try and accentuate some of it. I'm not saying we're going to go that far with it, but we may have some. Well, we have some old sets of rain tires.
I know, yeah.
that would not be a stretch at all to try and throw in the car.
Yep. Yeah. And the second you run a non-DOT tire, you might as well run non-emissions compliant, and then
Sawzall, cats.
Yeah.
Right off.
That's another reason that we're going for this kind of like very broad use case for the car, because what we're going to try and do with this car in testing all the parts and doing what we're going to do is we've got to make it something that we can recommend to all of our customers. So we're going to, as far as engine and power goes, we're not going to stray at all into.
I think you're going to be too soft on spring rates though. I think you're going to have to run a lot of ride height to not have it ride bump stop, and it's going to do a lot of weight transfer, right? Yeah, I mean, right, spring rate.
Weight transfer is good in
Spring rate controls weight transfer. Damping controls bottom out resistance and stuff like that, right? So I think you're going to have a ton of... And weight transfer is good to an extent. I think less so in rallycross than in rally.
Well, this is why we test. I mean, like, we're starting out... Basically what this is this is the rallycross spring rates that we worked really well on the GRSTI. So, that worked well on that car, and it was 1 inch higher than stock. So that's kind of roughly what we have in mind, is like just raising it up a little bit with the coilovers, and then we see what it does. And like if we have to increase the spring rates, that's not that hard to do.
Yeah.
So we do.
And all because, dear listeners, we are so excited for you to call up and ask what kind of parts to put on your VA or VB when you go rallycrossing.
Well, yeah.
Rallycross is still popular.
Rallycross is still popular.
Yeah.
No,
and everyone should, if you're listening right now, go rallycross.
Yeah, seriously.
Like, stop asking, how can I get involved in motorsports? Just go to a rallycross.
Well,
there's no excuse not to.
Drive your car there.
Yeah.
Have fun for almost no money.
Yeah.
And then party with friends, stand in the field for a little bit, and then go home.
Yeah. Well, and it's the part of what really got me thinking in this direction was just how fun it was driving a rally car back after we got it retuned with the new small restrictor. and like I may have missed a couple of corners and accidentally put some tires in dirt. And it was just so much fun.
Where?
Mexico. In Mexico.
Oh, man.
But it was just like having this car that is like, oh, there's dirt there, there's a dip there, and like like I'm turning forward instead of trying to avoid it at all costs.
Yeah. If anybody knows Boulder, just around the corner here is speed bumps on Cherryville.
Well, they just fixed them.
Right by. What do you mean they fixed them?
They fixed the train tracks.
Oh, not the train tracks, but the speed bumps on Cherryville. Like to the south, across from the dealership.
Sorry, yes.
Across from Flatiron Subaru, your number one source for Subarus.
Yeah.
There's some speed bumps down there.
Yeah.
And, they're gnarly. But when I got those Cuscos and I had I had my car around here, I went over those, and it's just full speed, as fast as you want. Just boom.
Okay. So that might be one of the first tests that we do.
It's good.
Yeah.
I don't know about 200, 100, 169 foot.
This is why we do the
spring.
testing.
Yeah.
This is why find out if it's too soft, we'll raise the spring rates. But it's fun to have a car where like, oh, there's dirt. Let's go drive in dirt. Oh, there's snow. Let's drive
cars are the best.
It's fun.
There's no reason.
It was an absolute blast. So like coming even into our parking lot where we've got this big dip. It's like it just doesn't matter.
Yep.
Like it just does not matter. The car just bloop up and over.
Good skid plates, good suspension,
fun.
And the world is your oyster.
And I feel like this car, it's just going to take a couple little tweaks to make it to the point where it's like that. So that's the initial goal, and it'll undoubtedly change as time goes on, but that's the starting point for it.
Yeah. So, I mean, rallycross is weird. I'm just staring at the car right now for the camera. I'm not just staring off into nowhere. Rallycross is weird because it's such a weird use case for a competition car because it's almost like autocross without traction. But like the quickness is still so important. Yeah. Like the fastest rallycross cars I know were not good rally cars, and the fastest rally cars or hill climb cars I know, other than my car one time that I'm aware of, were not good rallycross cars because rallycross lightness, a quick steering rack, a tall ass first gear, and big ass sway bars are really all you need.
Yeah.
Because if you can just leave it in first gear, do this.
Yeah.
Real quick. Not shift.
The rally tires are pretty important too.
Yeah,
sure. If you're gonna be absolutely going the fastest.
Shit tons of horsepower, big sway bar, fast rack, good tires, and that's a win in rallycross.
Yeah.
My 3.6 Outback is pretty good.
I bet.
Rallycross.
I bet.
Because it doesn't have to shift.
And you got throttle response,
and lower torque. Response. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You have to pull the ABS fuse.
Yep.
Yeah. But I've seen automatics do great at rallycross. It's such a weird thing. Like,
one of the BMW CCA instructors was driving his wife's Outback because his car was broken.
Yeah.
And he got first place.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, a 6-cylinder Outback, it makes all the sense. Like, that is a good package platform.
And not hitting cones. I've never won a rallycross. I have, fast timed overall. But with
cones.
80 seconds in cone penalties because who cares?
Yeah.
I'm not going to hit the humans, but nothing else out there I care about hitting. Yeah. So,
fun thing about that. So taking the Baja to rallycross a bunch, and it's so long that you will be going sideways through a gate and
hit both ends of the gate. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Pickup trucks, not great rallycross cars.
Although there are some good pickup trucks.
Which is surprising. Yeah, I'm surprised that there aren't more pickup trucks that are rally cars, because you'd figure like some of these like the Raptors, the Bronco Ranger Raptor,
way
whatever.
Huge, way slow, way heavy.
Well, probably the weight is.
There's a reason the VBs and VAs aren't good rally cars also, because they're gigantic.
Yeah.
Right?
And this is the VB's even bigger.
Yeah. They're land yachts compared to even a GD, much less. The GCs are... I mean, look at every trophy truck at the high end. They're single cab short bed proportions, right? It's...
Well, and they weigh like 6,000 or 7,000 pounds.
Trophy trucks?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're super heavy. They're not... I mean, shit, I beat Von Gitten's something. I forget if it was like an Ultra, or I even forget if it was Von Gitten. One of the Grid Lifes, I think it was Von, had an Ultra 4 car or like a Pro 4, some kind of something, right? And in my little plucky red Speedwagon, I mean, it wasn't a wagon because wagons are dumb, was able to beat that car, right? And he's a monster fun haver or whatever, Right. So, weight. Like the weight quickness of a car is...
But if... they need the weight in part because they're going 100 miles an hour.
I can't blast sandwich. Sorry.
Yeah.
I would just fall to pieces if I try to do an event that he does. Yeah. And so he's pretty competitive when he comes to do my event. Yeah, he wins. I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm not trying to say that fucking trophy trucks aren't the sickest. And I think Ultra Ford trucks are the pinnacle of engineering in motorsports right now. Formula One is just its own... We can't even talk about Formula One. It's just but so for normal life and reality on planet Earth, Ultra Ford cars are just
for things you built in your garage with your welder.
Yeah, and you can still build an Ultra 4 car in your garage and go out and just like slam through a building, and the car's like just like oh no, here's a mountain, and and it makes cool noises, but no, rally cars are pretty sick for normal people also. So
we'll see how it goes.
I still think your spring race is too soft.
Again, this is why we test.
Save this. Who's editing the podcast right now?
Who's editing?
Is it you?
I am. Yeah.
Yes. Save this clip.
And
then either make me look like a clown. So use one of these two things. I was wrong, or I told you. So save one of those right there.
Okay.
You know what this podcast is missing?
What?
A soundboard.
Yes. We have no sound effects. That's true. Okay. All right. I'll put it on the list. Maybe that'll be... It probably will not be the next acquisition.
Yeah. I mean, maybe the next Patreon supporter can donate it.
That's right. Who knows? All right. So now here's what came to my mind as we were getting ready to sit down for this, as far as something that just dawned on me, that I've been getting a lot of questions in this vein, and it kind of ties into... to a certain extent, maybe even the wiring question. But what I realized is in this past couple of weeks, we've gotten a lot of questions from people that they have a thing. And they're just saying, well, should I put this on my car or not?
Yes.
Like, I've got a question from a guy that he has a differential. He has it. Should I put this on my car? Or should I get something else?
I used to think, how the hell does this happen? And now I'm definitely that guy that has some stuff right now where I'm like...
Well... And as a couple examples, I have a diff that should I put on my car? I have a turbo, should I put it on my car? I've gathered all this stuff for an engine build, should I put it on my car? The through line that dawned on me is
ADHD.
Well, I mean, I guess one is if you get into cars, you can just start accumulating a whole bunch of random stuff. But it seems like there's a hesitation. There might be a hesitation out there to try stuff.
Oh.
I'm going through this right now.
Okay.
With my bone stock, not stock anymore GR.
Okay.
Because it needed a turbo.
Right.
I have a turbo. I was like, listen, I have this turbo. Should I put this turbo on? Well, let's see. That's an 18G turbo. So if I want to put on this turbo, well, shit, I gotta need fuel injectors, obviously. And that GR stumble that it has really is annoying. So I really should get rails and a regulator.
Okay.
And then
ECU, full exhaust.
I mean, this turbo on the car, the stock intercoolers are real like weakness in that platform. So on.
Yep.
Subaru Recycler's got a whole front mount kit they just pulled off a car.
Starting to go faster, get a cage, strip the interior.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, and it's but so the point that came to me, or the thought that came to me, is like, and I totally understand why you would reach out for confirmation. Like should I actually do this or not before, because if it's going to be a problem, if it's not going to do what I want it to do, I can see the rationale. Like, I would rather know that up front before I go in and make the mistake, so that I can save time, save money, save brain damage. And so I totally understand why these questions come in. But I think maybe what is worth coming back to or saying is that there's actually value in trying stuff out, and that you can learn a lot more sometimes by something that doesn't work or doesn't do exactly what you want it to do, versus by just putting on something that is right.
Yeah, hell yeah, always do it. The answer is always do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're Subaru people, so should I put this on my car as a proxy for the question, is this going to blow my engine up immediately after I put it on my car?
Right. Maybe. Well, so proper install, of course, is always...
Only if you drive it wrong.
So the EJ platform has been around for so long that there's stuff that is still kind of standard to get that's been around forever.
Oh, like
20G turbos.
Shift knob.
Huh?
Shift knob?
No. 20G turbos.
Sure.
Grimspeed AOSs. Things of that nature. Right?
Okay.
These have all been around for a while. We all know there's better things than those. Like, if you were going to go, I know the sales that Grimspeed was having on their turbos over Black Friday were so nuts that everybody and their mother that I knew was like, oh, I'm get that turbo. And you know what? That's a great idea to get a Grimspeed turbo, because those are modern turbos. They're really good for the price point. And
it was absurd what they were selling for.
Yeah. And so for, again, this is the thing. I have an 18G turbo sitting on a shelf. Should I put that on my Subaru? Mm-hmm. It will make more power. But it's not a great turbo. There's better turbos now,
Yeah. Well, and the thing is that I think so will it make the car less reliable? Will it blow it up? Again, totally understand why you would ask that. And I mean, that's all of this fear about blowing up your Subaru engine. It's that's
you can put a new one together for $1,000 and you can swap it in a day. It's okay. You're gonna be fine.
True.
So,
Well, I mean,
you're gonna be fine.
But beyond that, actually finding out that you don't like something, okay, I'm going to put this suspension on the car. If this suspension is too soft, to put that on and know it, and know that it is too soft, well, now I have a way better criteria for judging. Okay, what is the next thing they're going to try? What is the next thing that we're going to do in terms of spring rates, in terms of handling, in terms of what does the car do, what does the car not do? Like if you're wondering about putting a diff in your car, sometimes the only way to really understand what it's like to have the diff in the car and what it does is to put it in the car, because I can talk to people about it.
A diff isn't cheap either, so that's interesting that you'd land on that without knowing whether or not you want to put it in the car.
A takeoff from a buddy that has.
Yeah, I bought some shit on eBay before. I'm like, maybe I'll use it. Sure, buy now.
But the thing is there's getting in the car with the parts on the car and actually driving it and finding out what does it do, what is it like. There's no amount of talking on the phone or talking to people, talking to shops can fill in that actual hands-on experience.
Mm-hmm. And the people you're asking, for us sitting here, the only difference is that we did that at some point. Probably. So you could just be us if you just do the thing.
And
Tasso wants to retire. He needs a replacement. So, all you kids.
Yeah, I'm going to sit on my fat Subaru racing retirement.
So Jeremy, what I'm kind of thinking about here is your experience with wiring.
Yeah.
Because you wanted to figure out wiring and how to put in all this sensors and standalones and all this sort of stuff. And so you just dove in and you've done it. And now you've wired a handful of cars, and it's going to be a handful more cars. Yeah. And so getting in there and doing it is how you build up that knowledge. Like in Tasso, you're now building your second car, right? So you learned a lot by working with your red car, but now building the white car, you've learned a ton by going in there doing it the second time and starting from scratch.
Yeah, and it didn't start there. It started the way I learned to work on cars was when I was 14, about a $100 Volkswagen, and rewired that, and then made that work.
Oh,
and then got rid of that, and then you just have to start doing stuff, right?
Sure,
you're going to do a bad job probably for a while,
and it's I think you got to be okay with that. And accept that, it's a good thing almost. It's a good thing if it's frustrating, but I think that there's this barrier of not wanting to make a mistake and not want to try stuff.
They're still out there, the folks that do, I've told you about the army of teenagers with various hot hatches that I know.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, I want to come over and show you my car. Look at this. I bought this thing, this intake on eBay, and I put it on my Hyundai.
Hell yeah.
Right.
And it's like, here's where I cut the hole in the fender. Like,
that's like the first tuning modifications I ever made was like a little Mazda Protege or something like that, and putting a cold air intake on it. It was like the first time I ever worked on a Japanese car that wasn't a Land Cruiser.
Not once, but twice.
Yeah.
Said teenagers that I know have learned the value of an exhaust system because they thought, well, this thing here, that makes it quiet, right? I'm just going to cut that off.
Right. I don't need that.
You don't need that.
Honestly, I did that too. My Land Cruiser. If anybody knows, a 2F motor in a Land Cruiser, 4.2 liter inline six makes, I forget now, advertised 165 horsepower or something like that.
Probably makes more decibels than horsepower.
It sounded like a shitty fishing boat. But, ever seen I don't know, this is like a down periscope kind of fishing boat or something like that, right? Like just the crusty old dude, just diesel smoke. It was a gas motor, but at 35 miles an hour up the highway, but shit, it sounded good to me. So cut your exhaust off, man. Do it.
But I guess you see what I'm getting at. It's just I think we've got to. I wanted to remind or come back to the fact that trying and making mistakes. I mean, that's how you can learn really invaluable stuff. And once you realize there's going to be a value for me to put this on, no matter whether I like it or I don't. There's going to be a value, and I'm going to learn something by doing it. Mm-hmm. And then once you kind of get yourself into that mindset, then that's where the real understanding starts to come from. And it just once you open yourself up to that, then that's where things can really start to build as far as getting the car really to work the way that you want it to work. Really being a lot of fun. The understanding too that you get from the car by just not being deterred by being afraid to get into the car, but really just diving in and starting to try things. That's where
and you gotta learn. I mean, the reason I won't run a Torsen differential in a gravel car is because I've run a Torsen differential in a gravel car.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
There you go. Right. That. There it is. Right. It's. The reason I'm into manual brakes is because I run manual and boosted brakes.
And you know what the
in
difference
a rally car, and I know the difference, right?
And now you're moving to a pedal box, and that's probably going to be even this whole other level of customization and control.
Yeah. There's, the number of parts that were in Oops that I've sold used, is quite a bit, right?
Yeah, and back to that, that's a great point as far as why I could totally understand why people wouldn't want to do that, because if you're not just handed something or you get something from a buddy for $50 to try out, and you're actually having to pay brand new dollars for a thing, then
if you buy new, you're going to lose money.
Yeah,
but you gain
and that's where reaching out. I totally get it, but
it's cheaper than going to college still.
Yeah, especially now. Man. Ugh. Yeah.
Yeah. Ugh. Yeah, it's okay to ask questions though.
Yeah, for sure.
Flatirons has a limited amount of time, and I know you guys have had trouble with people calling in to ask you about a product they bought someplace else. And then, cool, thanks for this $100,000 of information. Click.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, we're happy to help. We'll figure it out.
But questions are okay, but it's just
don't abuse the system, but use the system.
Well, and try stuff. There's a value in trying stuff. So I don't know. That's what's been on my mind this week.
Yeah. There's how many podcasts in are we? I wasn't paying attention when we started.
This is episode 162.
We're so close to 169. 160 some podcasts now. we've been saying, just go do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is a message from podcast 1.
Go
do the thing.
Go get go tune your car. Go get a standalone and a plug-and-play adapter and go tune your car.
Get an Impreza RS GD, of course. Go to a rallycross, and you're going to have way more fun than that sim rig you thought you should buy.
I just saw an a Legacy wagon. That was fine. 5-speed manual, $2,000. Go buy that and rallycross it.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Legacies. WRXs have gotten expensive. SCAs have always been expensive. Legacies have always been cheap.
Go buy a GD 2.5 RS. Those are cheap.
Oh yeah.
Some of the most fun, they're great too. Some of the most fun people I've seen out there, Ryan Haney in his Chevy Beretta.
Wow.
Just rallycrossing, automatic. Yeah. Made great noises. Always had the car dressed up like something silly, or it was looking like just a junk show cruising around the course. But
Pontiac Vibe GTs are still cheap. Even though everybody knows what they are.
Get a PT Cruiser.
Yeah. No, don't get a PT Cruiser. No. What was the GM car that was the same as the Holden Monaro? It had the 8-cylinder rear-wheel drive.
Oh, the Pontiac G8? G6?
I think that's right. I think it was the G8 because it had the 8-cylinder engine.
Yes.
Like that thing would be just a kick in the pants.
Cut the back off it and make your own Commodore.
Maybe. Yeah.
So, honestly, like, what's that Camaro before they started looking like fish? One of those would be sick. Because, like, the fishy-looking Camaros are big, like, in the American Iron class or whatever for whatever that series is. NASA. Or SCCA. NASA.
Yep. But you mean the first LS-powered one?
Not that one.
No, the one before that.
The one before, I think, was it still a TBI car, a TPI car, or something like that? I think so. Those would be sick.
What year? What are we talking? Like
we're in the 80s.
Yeah, we're
the 80s. I think if you shopped around, you could get one for $300. Cut the exhaust off, go run mod 2-wheel drive, lose, but have a blast at a rallycross, and then go just fucking smash a burrito and have a great time. Just like
listen, I'm not seeing enough shitty Lexuses at rallycross. We need more shitty Lexuses.
There was a triple driver team that would come out and
like an IS-250 or something?
No, or like a 80s Toyota
Supra?
No.
Like a Mark III?
No. Like boxy car. Japanese sedan. I forget what it was.
Camry?
Was it a Camry?
It's probably a Camry.
Is that what it was?
Or a Corolla.
Corolla, maybe? I don't know what it was. It was badass, though.
111 or something like that?
Like, bumpers falling off of the thing.
Yeah.
They were doing 3-driver rotations, like constantly running into the car to try and get all the drivers through and stuff like that. It was sick, right?
A 6-cylinder Outback is interesting.
There's a lot of them.
There's a lot of them.
Not
crazy. And, like, I have been astounded more than once, Jeremy, on how much you're able to fit in the back of an Outback. Like, it is a big car. Yep. You can actually use that space.
Somebody I know just lost a bet. You know who you are. Forester interior room versus Outback interior room. My 01 Outback has more interior storage than a new Forester.
I believe it.
Yeah.
Man, it sounds good.
It had to have lost because of the length. Because the Forester is a little bit taller, but the Outback is a lot longer than the Forester is.
I think there's just we're in internet rumor stage, but some people have seen the probably 25 or is it the 26? I think it's the 25 Outback, or is it 26? 26. It's the 26 Outback, supposedly in like camouflage.
Basically looks suspiciously like
it's an Ascent.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Get one of those. Rallycross it. Get the warranty. They'll fix it. Probably. That is not good advice.
Figure out how much, because the Ascent's got power. Figure out how much
you can take out of it weight wise.
Yeah. No, just figure out how much it takes to get it on its roof.
Oh boy.
I was not allowed to.
What the center of gravity would be. Yeah.
I mean, I was not allowed to autocross my lowered Baja once because it was technically a pickup truck.
Oh.
And BMW CCA rules.
Yeah.
Weird. Yeah, that'll be... Yeah, that's on the safety director for the race to make that call.
Yes.
They've become more lenient about that, from what I understand.
Yeah, well, it's because you can take a BMW X9000 insurance because that's its curb weight, right?
Yeah.
To a rallycross, but Bajas no.
Yeah, weird. Because of the bed.
Because it's a pickup truck.
Interesting.
Yeah. Whatever.
Would that be a reverse chicken tax?
They made them here. No,
they did. Okay.
No chickens were taxed in the making of my Baja.
Okay. That's right, because it was on the legacy assembly line. So yeah, it would have been.
Yeah, no, it's sick actually. My 01 Outback and my 06 Baja both have Indiana. What do you call it? Auto Workers Union.
Yeah, by U.S. made.
Yep.
Okay.
Go buy a U.S. made car. Go buy something Japanese or European.
Made in the USA.
Brazilian made GMs.
Yep. All right. Well, says we're winding it down here to the end.
We're winding down. Hold on. What time is it?
And it's almost.
It's not time to wind down yet. Steamrolling this podcast.
Well, but it's also almost the end of the year. 2024. As we're recording this, it's the first week of December.
Beginning of the year. First race of the 2024 ARA. 2025 ARA season is this weekend.
Which you're about to
going down there.
So this is Ridge Rally.
Yep.
Who are you co-driving with?
I'm not co-driving. I am crewing.
Crewing, okay.
Because there was maybe we were going to be ready for Ridge because we're still in
rebuild mode,
and you could always jump in with a driver at the last minute. I didn't want to do that this time because also I don't know. I could use a vacation, and that's more. Rallies are hard work, so I decided, I'm bringing my suit and my helmet and all that crap, so I don't know.
Just in case.
You never know. Sometimes co-drivers get food poisoning and crap like that. It's been known to happen. Yeah. So if somebody needs, I can jump in, but, I'm just going to crew and hang out with my rally friends and all that stuff. Yeah.
Talk about what kind of rally Ridge is, because you've run out there before.
Oh, yeah. Ridge is beautiful. Ridge is so cool. You are up in effectively the hills, the mountains, the foothills of the mountains outside of L.A., about an hour east of the city.
It's it's on the backside of the foothills.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like Lancaster, isn't
it? The closest town is Tehachapi, something like that.
Tehachapi.
Yeah,
no, Tehachapi.
Nice. But the scenery is beautiful. There's some really fast, wide open roads that you're racing down. You get up into the hills and into the twisties and the switchbacks.
Yeah, Tehachapi Pass is beautiful.
Yeah, it's I'd say scenery wise, it's my favorite rally.
Nice. Wow.
It's an all one day rally too, which is another reason why it's exhausting because you're just going at it all day long, and the usual 120 or so stage miles or something like that. The terrain is really forgiving too, so it's not a car breaker like some other races.
It's beautiful rolling terrain. It's not like the desert, the desert rock stuff. It's like like dry rolling hills of California.
It's not the UTV trails of Rally Colorado.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
ATV trails.
ATV.
They are UTV trails, but it's wild how gnarly Rally Colorado is.
Yeah.
Ultra 4-car territory.
A lot of fun.
So and we got a lot of entries this year. I think it's over 40.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's going to be sick.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. That's actually really great that they're getting that deep of an entry list.
Is it a regional?
Yeah, it's a regional. It's the first, but this is what I'm saying. It's the first race of the 2025 season.
For the
and
California
it runs California Rally Series, I know a number of people I know personally are going to try to campaign the whole Rally Series and go for the regional award, so that'll be sick to see my friends go at that. Yeah, it's disappointing that we couldn't do it this year, but c'est la vie.
Yeah.
It's also
that's awesome.
It's good to see people
for sure. Well, and hopefully you and Cameron's car are back together, because I think from here we've got to jump to February.
Snowdrift,
yeah. Yeah, who wouldn't want to go to Michigan in February? I don't know.
It's been a weird winter season.
I've never seen Michigan personally. I'm not sure it exists.
No.
The closest
you've been there? Okay.
Fun fact: snowdrift. We could if it snows up in the pass in Tehachapi, yeah. Then we can run snow tires because they clarify that in the subs because the weather forecast was marginal at one point.
Yeah.
Can't run studded tires in Michigan though. Can't run studded tires in snowdrift because they're illegal in the state of Michigan.
The funny quirks of rally and its road legality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's silly.
That's interesting. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, so Tasso, it's December. You've got a race car that's like just...
Stop pushing me. I'm going through something.
They can't blame it on me this time either.
I'm working on it.
Are you thinking...
We'll be good.
Because when is your first hill climb event? In 25?
Schedule's not posted yet that I'm aware of. Oh, we have a tentative schedule. I should check that actually. I just decided to go to Australia to race mountain bikes in May. But sometime in May, I'm usually... is when the first race is. Yeah. Unless that conflicts, I'll be ready for that. I should be ready for it. I got no excuses at this point other than my own, so I just need to go do it. So there's that. I mean, CHCA stuff. I'm also like the rally class rep, and so we're working through our kind of rule change stuff in the off season. Every off season, we put it out to the class to propose a rule change, and we vote on it as a class, as long as it's kind of within the general direction of the class.
Anything coming down the pipe for this year, for rule changes?
Nothing significant so far. They still have 4 days to submit changes, but so far we've only had...
Nobody's complaining about the co-driver rules
No one's complaining about the co-driver thing, which I was kind of expecting. Yeah. I mean, here's some hot CHCA gossip for now our TMZ CHCA edition.
Okay.
Whatever. No, like the co-driver thing has been a point of contention in the past. Up to a couple of years ago, our rules were basically like, I don't know, it's a rally car, right?
Right.
Okay. And kind of a lot of stuff was happening that was just common practice rather than actually supported by the rules. Including not having restrictors or a lot of like the other, like not having, especially the Evo guys were running headlights. A lot of them because Evo headlights are expensive apparently, and heavy. And so you either get a car that doesn't have them that you build, you don't have to go source a couple $1,000s in headlights. So you just run some blanks, or you're using them for a weight advantage or an intake. So
I mean, for context, one of the qualifications for being a co-driver is what do you weigh? That's something that people advertise.
Yeah.
On the rally forums.
Okay. So an interesting thing there.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll do it chronologically here, so it makes more sense. So we went through and we rewrote our rules to be like, okay, here's the deal. It's a rally-based class. There's allowances for. Not street legal, no minimum weights, have some more fun with aero, make more power if you want, because rally cars are boringly slow. So,
oh boy.
Yeah, fight me.
Okay.
Rally cars are slow and heavy.
Oh, yes.
CHCA so right, we got together as a class, wrote some rules up. There was an iteration which kind of attempted to address the rules before, which were basically none of us followed the previous rules, essentially, right? So we wrote the rules at least to be like, hey, here's everything that's been going on. That led to some pretty wild stuff. A previous TMZ hot scoop controversy about what a tube chassis car is versus a rally car. That led to a bunch of rewriting of the rules. We worked with Preston and the ARA and our rules now on stuff like modifying the unibody are even longer than the ARA's rules are. But the length is in putting in writing, we hope, or through conversation, what the intention of the ARA rules are in an unspoken way. So if you're curious about the unspoken part of ARA rules, read the CHCA rule book. And it does explain like what the profile of a pillar is, or what a door opening actually entails, and stuff like that. What the floor of the car is,
right?
Because unbelievably, some of those things are pretty ambiguous, actually. And those guys. Is Dave Clark still a technical director?
No, isn't it Doug?
Yeah,
Nagy?
Doug Nagy.
Nagy, yeah. I don't know. There's so many names bouncing around my head right now. I don't mean any to anybody. So, a lot of the stuff that this is their interpretation of their own rule book, hopefully expanded upon. Mm-hmm. In all this stuff, co-drivers came up. We don't have a minimum weight, so running with no co-driver gives you an automatic weight advantage.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Our courses are short enough that generally most people just remember them. A lot of folks are running without co-drivers before, but the way the rule was written, you couldn't place, get a payout, or set a record without a co-driver.
In the rally class.
In the rally class. You still could in unlimited.
So you couldn't place, set a record.
Yeah, you're essentially just having fun.
Right. Okay.
Now the thing is, people were placing, getting payouts while we still had payouts. Those are gone now. And setting records without co-drivers. And so it was like, guys, my stance always as a class rep has been like it's a service position. So I'm not there to tell everyone how to run the class. I'm not going to dictate the class. And I'm not going to enforce things other than safety things. Sure. There's a protesting protocol within the club. Essentially, it's like day of, you got to like pretty much immediately you have to be like, that's not legal. Right. And they'll be like, oh yeah, sure enough.
Sure enough. Okay.
So, these records and stuff, they're official because they weren't protested. Even though they were technically against the rules. If it's a safety thing, y'all step in, like, guys, that's not a cage. You text the car and then remove the cage. That's not legit, right? So yeah, I'll step in for that just because I think that's in everyone's best interest, hopefully, to follow the safety rules. But stuff that's a competitive advantage or not, I'm not going to protest.
So what is the revision?
So the revision that happened the last couple of years ran together, either last year or the year before the last season. Yeah, so was that, okay, we'll rewrite the co-driver rule. It went to revotes. It got very involved, and I'm trying to, I have my own opinions about it. I try to stay out of it in terms of my opinions and just try and find the pulse of, and people were changing their votes even from vote to vote between these things. What it settled on now is you can place, if there's payouts, you can trophy, you can pay out without a co-driver, but you can't set a record. Okay. So really the person that this is affecting is Jeff Zwart in his Porsche, because he'll go around and break his own records every time he goes out. And for the most part, I think if he doesn't have all the records, he has most of the records in the Rally two-wheel drive class, because that Porsche is beautiful, and he's a good driver. Yeah. I guess. No. Love you, Jeff. He's badass. He's a sick, just an all-time amazing person. So now he's just going around unofficially breaking his own records, but they're not.
So his old records stand, but he can't set any new records unless he's got a co-driver in the car.
Right.
But is there a contingency for like a weight equivalent? Like if you put...
We talked about that.
Okay.
And there was no way to come up with that because if there's no minimum weight, what's the weight penalty for? Especially if you have a big enough budget, sure, I'll go put a 150-pound weight in that seat and then take 150 pounds out of someplace else, right? Like, I'm going to make the whole thing carbon. Screw you guys, right? Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that's what Jeff would do, but when there's no minimum weight, what is the weight penalty for, right? Sure. It just makes it more expensive to get weight. You're just adding cost to the class, essentially, at that point.
Usually weight penalties are penalties on top of the minimum weight. So if your normal minimum weight is 3,000 pounds and you have a 150-pound weight penalty, then your new minimum weight is 3,150.
Right.
Yeah, right.
So, but all you're doing, and a lot of, like, one of the main reasons we don't run or don't require restrictors is because restrictors don't make cars slower, arguably. They just make cars more expensive, right?
Right.
The Subaru restricted rally cars are making what my car makes unrestricted.
No.
I don't think they do.
No.
Let's see a dyno sheet from my sports car.
They make close.
They make more torque.
They get close. They make more torque.
They make more torque.
Yeah. I know that because our engine setup makes pretty close to what a VSC car makes.
But the torque falls off.
Yeah. I mean,
There's.
I made 380 foot-pounds.
Have you seen the dyno sheets from our car? The torque does not fall off.
I thought it did.
It has to.
It has to.
We rev to 7,000.
Well, but this is with or without the restrictor?
With the restrictor.
With the restrictor.
The torque holds.
At what?
Up to 6,500.
Holds at what?
I don't remember.
What I'm getting at here is it's possible it just never spikes.
Probably.
Yeah, it just never spikes.
It spikes higher, but it doesn't. But real consistent torque. The difference between a well-designed restrictor was being able to make it up a hill and not being able to make it up a hill in third gear or something like that.
Yeah, but I would guess that the Vermont sports car cars make 500 plus foot-pounds at 3,500 RPM, right?
They're in the.
I bet you 400.
Yeah, 400. They've talked about this.
There's no way. It's got to be more.
No.
I call bullshit on all of it. Regardless.
They have to.
They have $100,000 motors, and restrictors just make the motors more expensive. They don't make the cars really slower, right?
You have to, I mean, the more you optimize for the restrictor,
the less the car slower.
The less the penalty of the restrictor.
Limit.
Yes.
The minimum weight.
I think that's the bigger advantage that we have over the Vermont sports car cars is weight.
It seems like the solution to the CHCA problem ultimately is probably to set some kind of a minimum weight.
Nope.
No.
Fuck that shit.
Fuck that shit. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry. Explicit.
Right at the end. Boom.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, we're not going to do that shit. No, it's grassroots racing, and setting minimum weights makes racing more expensive. Making restrictors makes racing more expensive.
No, well, but okay. So explain the weight making the racing more expensive.
Because you can still make a $3,000 car with a center of gravity that's 2 inches off the ground if the entire top of the car is made out of nanotubes. Right.
And frankly,
or carbon nanotubes or whatever, right? It'd be a impossibly expensive car, which is why ARA and CHCA have so many rules about unibody construction and what you can and can't cut out.
Right.
And that even gets taken pretty far, right? A and B pillars outside profile needs to be factory profile and metallic. Doesn't say what metal.
Oh boy.
Right?
Okay.
If you wanted to, you cut the A pillar out, replace it with titanium.
Right.
The spirit of the rule...
Just the outside of the A pillar with titanium.
Correct, right.
Titanium
the spirit of the rule is that the unibody's strength is factored into the strength of the cage design.
Right.
I haven't seen anybody replace an outside profile of an A or B pillar with titanium yet, even though arguably it'll be stronger than some sheet metals.
It'd be more brittle.
There's a handful of material things that would come in. So it hasn't come up yet.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I've seen some C pillars cut out, which don't have to be metallic. Right. They just have to be factory profile and replace the carbon before.
Sure.
And you're doing just to the C pillar, like poking it with your finger and it flexes. So it's... there's a lot of stuff. You get into homologated cage design. Sills are a much bigger area of focus for not getting too rowdy with in terms of lightening them and stuff, because the sill of a unibody car is extremely strong, including the transmission tunnel and everything, right? Tunnel's less so, less materials, but any bent shape or any sandwiched layer is the area of strength for unibody,
and frankly, if you're putting a homologated cage in a car, but you've massively lightened the floor or the firewall, something like that, or the strut towers, you done fucked up.
The advantage of the homologated cage is that it's lighter. It's lighter because it's been tested and passed on that platform. It's been tested and passed on that platform in a certain way. If you change the platform, then you change the homologation, really, of the cage.
So we should define a homologated cage. Like how would you define that? Because it's a
cage that the design, materials, and manufacturer have been tested and approved as a specific product with the FIA.
So this is like the custom cages.
Custom cages sells it. As far as I'm aware right now, they're the only.
No, for the others.
Yeah. Okay. Well, commercially commonly used in the United States, custom cages is the main one that I'm aware of.
So the significance here is that this is not a shop looking at the car, looking at a pile of straight tubing,
building to Appendix J.
But it's also not, because you can buy cage kits like Bleeding Tarmac, Broken Motorsports makes all sorts of super
which
cage
are
kits.
really good. They're built
cages.
to I'm spacing my numbers now. 253 Appendix J, whatever.
Yeah.
Don't kill me on the number exactly. Article whatever appendix whatever. There's the FIA cage construction for like touring cars, Group N cars, whatever. They're heavier cage designs because they're not homologated to the chassis and they're not tested themselves. But as long as you use an approved material, tube size, wall thickness, and the right tubes in the right locations, they figure they've covered enough bases that it's safe enough for you to compete.
Well, this is how most cages are constructed. Is you have a guy that's built a bunch of cages and he knows what all and this is how the rules are built around why there have to be X number of bars and X number of places.
And they're allowing
of a certain thickness.
They're allowing a safety margin in that, which is why they're heavier. And a cage is heavy, pretty up high too. Right. So not only does any weight make the car better, losing any weight make the car better, but also losing weight up high especially, right? Metallic roof skins are required in rallying and in CHCA, and you're required to remove a sunroof and either put a slick top on it or whatever. And so that's intrusion of stuff into the roof of the car as you tumble through the woods kind of thing, right?
Which is a thing.
But otherwise, a carbon roof is pretty sweet. That's a lot of weight up high. And it's even the inside of my roof isn't painted to save that paint weight up high, right? So it's
but the point with the cage is in the homologation.
And making cars more expensive.
So now you're so the reason that homologated cages work is because they've done the design and they've actually crash tested it so that they know that the design works, provided that it's attached to the unibody of the car, probably in factory trim. And so this is like the question is we're talking about this.
You can't cage a car without stripping it. So the cars are stripped, but
you're not taking all of the structure out of like the A pillar and the B pillar.
Exactly. There are specific rules about what you can remove from the car.
Because this like when we built our black rally car, that was our second not this rally car, but the previous rally car. That one we built from just a car into a rally car, so we had to put the cage in it. And we had the discussion around, do we gut the A pillars and the B pillars to save weight? And we decided, rally car, no. We want all the structure.
Yeah.
But you'd have to figure, like, for some of these rules, you'd have to account, because there's rules as far as the tube thickness and tube material based on the weight of the end weight of the vehicle. Because the idea is...
depending on the championship, or depending on the series. Yeah.
But I would imagine that tube thickness in type of material there'd have to be different calculations for, like, whether the B pillar is like completely superficial or actual structural.
You're allowed to gut the B pillar in ARA and CHCA, which for certain generations of Subarus is a significant amount of weight. I think the Bug Eyes didn't have the steel rods, but by the time this is anecdotal, there's some evidence I've seen.
I think they had the steel rods in the A pillars, but not the B pillars.
I don't think there's a steel rod. There's a thick bent plate in the A pillars of the GDs, but there's literally two, I don't know what they are, 3/4 inch steel rods in the top of at least the later GD B pillars.
Those are in the GRs or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean they went to boron at some point. That's the whole they lived marketing scheme that Subaru had.
Yeah,
but rollover standards get stricter every year. The GDs do have a thicker bent plate sandwiched into the A pillar, which is a huge pain to remove. I didn't go through the bother with that. But it's 25 pounds I measured per B pillar of weight up high in the GDs. And this is all, to kind of refocus this context to why I don't want to do, why I'm not going to push for service to the class. So if the class votes on minimum weights, yeah, sure, we'll do it. But why I'm not going to vote for and I'm opposed to minimum weights for the class is because if you set a minimum weight, you still do all the same stuff to make your car weigh 2550, and then you put in 450 pounds of weight in the most ideal location.
Right. You would still push limits and thresholds to get as much weight out so you can bring it back exactly where you want.
You could still spend $100,000 making a titanium superstructure on the car and put that on the bottom, and you're still going to have a competitive advantage over the guy who thought, like, wait, I thought we weren't lightening our cars. It's like, We're lightening our cars and adding it back expensively. That's all minimum weights do.
That's right.
So it's tough. It's I mean, we're not the only series to have these kind of conversations. There's a reason the Spec Miata rule book is an encyclopedia long.
Yeah.
The more limited a class is, the more expensive it gets to cheat, and you have to cheat to win.
Try it.
So
people do stuff, and it's only in catching. Oh, you did what?
Yeah.
Like paper mache C-pillars.
I can't imagine what the cheating industry for Formula One must generate billions of dollars of revenue. Like it's wild. People are getting actually physically threatened and hurt and going. The cheating at the high level of motorsports is amazing and fascinating, but not great.
I go back to the thing where we are the only people who are actually racing different cars.
Yeah. I mean, it's
racing different cars.
Yeah.
Like we build a car, we don't.
We're not just getting cookie. I mean, especially now that Rally is on a universal chassis at the top end.
Oh yeah.
NASCAR is on a universal chassis at the top end.
Yeah.
I can't tell the difference between dragsters. They look the same to me. And someone's right now is going, what? That's wrong. Obviously, the Billy Bob chassis is different than the Winga-Danga chassis. For sure, man.
The old Winga-Danga chassis.
Yeah. The Billy Bob chassis it's been good for a lot of years, but
it's true.
So, there's your TMZ insight into. So I thought that the co-driver rule was going to come back up this off season. It hasn't.
I guess. I mean, from when you factor in the fact that there's no minimum weight, it kind of makes sense because it's like, well, I have a co-driver and you don't, but there's no minimum weight, so it's like, yeah. I mean, it literally thinking of a co-driver as an appliance.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
No offense, Jeremy.
There's been arguments also, right? I don't want to put a co-driver in the car for the safety concern, right? Well, I'm comfortable risking my own life, but not someone else's.
And that's why Pikes Peak, after the Foley crash, that's why they banned co-drivers, because they realized if you have two people in the car and the car goes off,
twice as many people.
Two people at risk.
Yeah.
And that does make a lot of sense.
Yep. Oddly, what's happened, and I didn't compete this year, I wasn't actually at the races, because obviously I'm taking years to build a simple car. But I heard at a couple races what happened is that someone would compete with their co-driver in one run and then without their co-driver in the second race run on Sunday. So they cover both bases.
Yeah.
And I don't think that any of us in the class are good enough drivers that we could do an exactly repeatable run and just the co-driver is the difference between the two in that weight. Especially because the course changes, the weather changes.
That might have something to do with seeing where the rest of the field shook out on their first run. So was that some of those races?
Yeah. Yeah. There's some competitive
How close was it? Do I need a little something?
Yeah.
Hopefully, Frank, stay out of the car.
Hopefully, I can just show up with my co-driver in the car next year and prove that that's not what's keeping these people from, setting records and stuff.
It's a whole nother discussion, but whether you're an adept enough driver to tell the difference between
I think it might have been a factor in me rolling. My car is not having Abby in the car with me. I rolled to this side and it was just me and I'm heavy. And Abby on that side, maybe it would have counterbalanced me. I went over pretty hard, but maybe it would have been enough to not go over,
To be fair, the rules are whenever a rally car goes off, it's always the co-driver side that gets hit. It's
in the rules.
It's been in the rules.
All tree hits must be done on the co-driver side.
When Cameron rolled when I wasn't in the car, he rolled on the driver's side. But when I was in the car, obviously I had to be on the
even outside of rally, I used to be a child passenger safety seat technician as part of work stuff.
Okay.
And it's not in the literature. Car seat technician is what that is. It's not in the literature, but the adage in the car seat technician industry is that if you're going to pick one side or the other of the back seat to put the car seat, you put her on the driver's side because you're more likely to protect your own side in a crash.
Yeah.
Wow.
Also, come on.
Now that sounds like some wives' tale shit that got passed down over generation to generation of car seat technician. But I don't know, right? The other thing is like, no, put it on the curbside, because if you parallel park, you don't want to take your kid out of the car.
100%, and the fact that if it's just you and your kid and you're driving, because
you can look back that way.
You can actually look back. You can actually give them things.
Because you're not supposed to mount a mirror, because that might fall off and become a projectile. So
I was in
failed that one.
I was doing some work on a car that had a camera and a screen
to watch the kid.
Kid, and the screen was on the dash. I was like,
interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
So cool. We got around to how to watch your kid from emissions laws.
That was this conversation was a journey.
It went from emissions to child passenger safety seats. So
that's where we ended. Yeah.
Motorsports podcast.
I mean, and race seats, like real race seats with halos. Those are basically just kids.
It's kid seats. Yeah.
Well,
it would be safer if we were in the middle of the car facing backwards.
100%.
Yeah.
You should.
I don't think there's anything in the rule book.
Why hasn't anybody designed a race car with the reverse mounted reverse seating position?
Yes.
With a camera, so that you can watch and drive the car backwards.
I wonder why.
Can you imagine how trippy that would be on your inner ear?
Oh yeah, no. I would throw.
Wait.
It's even worse.
We can simulate.
It's even worse than a simulator. Yeah.
We can simulate this right now.
Or you're over your shoulder, backing up
There has to be a reverse driving championship. I think I've heard of it.
Oh yeah, reverse bikes and people just crash hard.
Yeah. Oh man. Okay. Well, all right. So as we're coming to the end, be sure you check out OTC Racing, Money Shift Rally, Tasso and Jeremy. Follow them. Check out our merch. We got the shirts. Jeremy's wearing a record shirt.
Sorry.
Tasso's not wearing a shirt. That's okay.
I'm not really a part of anything. I don't know.
And in the comments below, tell us what you think about minimum weight rules. Is that
yeah, I'm not gonna listen to whatever you say, but you can yell at the wall all you want.
Yes.
Yeah, and if you're put in the comments even if you're not in the rally class in CHCA, what rule changes you want to see in the rally class in CHCA,
or just the ARA rally in general.
Yeah. If you've ever done to Tehachapi Pass loop, especially on Railroad Simulator, if you haven't, check it out. Okay. If you have, then you know where Ridge Rally is, so let us know about that.
Yeah. So. Put in the comments how much power you think that the ARA Subaru cars actually make. Do you think that the restrictors actually limit them or not? What is your guess?
If you work for Vermont Sports Car, share your dyno graph with us. We won't share it.
Yeah. For Vermont Sports Car, it's a weird thing where you can comment in our YouTube videos, but nobody else can see that. Only we can see that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Promise that's the case.
We won't share the graph.
That's right.
Promise.
Yeah. And then the last thing, if you want, leave in the comments what's been on your mind. What has grabbed your attention in the last couple of weeks in the world?
What part do you have sitting on a shelf that you were wondering whether or not you should put it on your Subaru?
That's right. Maybe that would be the next kind of thing we should try. Hey, what's your problem? Is should I install it?
Sure.
Send it in. I have this kitchen sink. Should I put it in my car? No. Some of these will be easy. Some of these will be hard.
I have this fish tank. Should I mount it in my back seat?
Absolutely.
Yes. Koi pond.
Yeah.
Yes, you should.
Always go for the koi pond.
Yes, that's right. You don't go for the tank, you go for the pond. Because that distributes the weight, lower center of gravity.
Yes, exactly.
And if you have a Motec system exhaust, take a picture of it and send it in.
Okay. All right. Deal. Well, thanks for your support as always. Hope everybody's had a good holiday season so far. And until next time, stay tuned to Flatirons Tuning. Thanks everyone for tuning in to the Flatirons Syndicate Motorsports Podcast. Once again, we'd like to let you know that your support is what makes this show possible. Be sure to check out our online store at FlatironStuning.com for any of your aftermarket or OEM Subaru parts needs. And as always, stay tuned with Flatirons Tuning.